So are you looking to create a community around your brand? Today's guest is going to show you how to do just that. In today's episode, we're going to have our very first case study. And we're going to be talking to a guy who I owe a lot of my success to, both in the content that he teaches, but also in just having him as a friend and as a podcast client. Because he's really the one who kind of started me down this whole podcasting journey and it really helped Your Podcast Guru take off and be what it is today. And so we're going to talk to him about his podcasting story, as well as how he's used his brand to really build a community around his business and around his brand. And so here is the case study with Hal Elrod. Well, hello and welcome to this episode of the podcast. And on this episode, we have a very special guest here. And he's special because not only is he a special guy, but this is our very first interview for the Power of Podcasting. And I couldn't think of anyone better to bring on than Hal Elrod. Hal, hello and welcome.
Nick, it's fun to be on this side of the mic with you. I'm excited. Yeah,
it's a little bit different, but like I said, Hal is actually a very special guest here because not only is he an international best-selling author, he's a successful keynote speaker and a success coach, but he is also the guy behind The Miracle Morning, which is a book and also a movement that is just sweeping the nation, traveling around the world, and actually what it does is it empowers people to live a better life by being intentional about the way they start their day. And Hal is, like I said, this is a really special interview for me because it's the first interview on this podcast, but Hal is actually my very first client, so he's the one that really kicked it all off, gave me my start, helped encourage me along the way, and this business would not be here without him. So Hal, again, thanks and welcome.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Nick. And I mean, it's mutual. You know, my podcast has grown thanks to you, largely thanks to you, to 70,000 downloads now a month. And that wouldn't happen without you. You're the one that came to me and kind of shared the vision of what podcasting could be. And I didn't even listen to podcasts. I didn't even know what it was. I was like, who listens to podcasts? So no, I appreciate your persistence in getting me started because now, man, it's been one of the greatest value adds for my business, since we started.
Yeah, and that's definitely what we want to dive into more here on this episode. You know, the audience of this podcast are all business owners or want to be business owners, mainly people with personal brands like yourself who want to be speakers, trainers, who want to have their own podcast. They want to get their message out to their audience. And as you know, the principle behind my entire focus of this business is that the best way to grow your business is to consistently add value to your audience. So Hal, let's kind of dive in a little bit and just quickly tell how you got started in this speaking and business, this being an author. How did you get your start here with business?
Yeah, so the short story, kind of chronologically, when I was 19 years old, I started selling Cutco Cutlery, kitchen knives. 10 days later, I had broken the company record where I had sold more in my first 10 days than almost anyone that had ever come before me in the 50-year history of the company. And a year and a half later, I was driving home from a sales meeting when my car on the freeway was hit head on by a drunk driver at 70 miles an hour. I was sent spinning. Another car crashed in my door at 70 miles an hour. Immediately, I broke 11 bones on the left side of my body and bled to death. I was found dead at the scene. I died for 6 minutes, in a coma for 6 days, told I would never walk again. And when I came out of the coma and I was faced with this reality that, they're saying I'm not going to walk again, I had this realization that A, I am going to walk again. I'm going to find a way. But B, maybe I'm destined to do more than just sell knives for the rest of my life. And, I believe everything happens for a reason, but I do believe it's our responsibility to choose the reason. It's not predetermined. And so I chose, you know what, I'm going to overcome this extreme adversity, if you will, and I'm going to turn this into an advantage. I'm going to use this to develop my purpose and to serve other people and help other people and inspire other people. And that's really what got my work started in, I became a speaker first for high schools and colleges, wrote my first book, Taking Life Head On. And then years later, The Miracle Morning was born after the U.S. economy crashed. I lost my business. I got deeply depressed. And I created this morning ritual, which it wasn't called the Miracle Morning. It didn't have a book planned. I mean, nothing. It was just my own attempt to take myself to the next level so that I could take my results to the next level. And it happened faster than I ever thought possible. So I started calling it my Miracle Morning. One thing led to another, and and here we are. And as you mentioned, I'm still blown away by how many people every single day are discovering the Miracle Morning and are sharing how profoundly it's changing their lives. 2 people in the last week, 2 people, separate situations, sent a message saying the Miracle Morning saved their marriage. 2 people saved their marriage. Yes, I mean, it's wild. But that's kind of what led me. Everything that I do now, it's because I went through extreme adversity and I just found a way to overcome it. And then now I'm sharing with other people kind of how to do the same thing.
Oh, that's awesome, Hal. And so now what we actually want to do is let's dive a little bit more into your actual business and how you kind of structure that. Because obviously you have a lot of passion. You have a great story. You came up with this Miracle Morning concept, and that's definitely propelling you out there, propelling your business. But how can we help some of our audience members who maybe have a different story, maybe are looking to create something different? So what is your core business? What does that kind of look like right now?
Yeah, so I don't know. It's hard for me to say that I have a core business because I've got quite a few different streams of income. And I'll kind of break these down. So I do one-on-one coaching. I've done that for 10 years. I do that less and less and less now. And I'll actually, before I keep going, let me just dive in with kind of a bonus lesson, if you will. Everything that I do now and that I create, I'm very focused on the scalability of it and the passivity of it. Meaning, right? How can I, if I'm put my time or energy into creating income streams or a business, and this is for anyone listening or watching, you can either put your time and energy into creating something that becomes dependent on your time and energy to continue moving forward, or you can create income streams and businesses that are independent of your time. So all of my energy for the last couple of years has been, how can I create income streams that I don't have to be there? They operate, my mastermind calls it horizontal income, meaning when you're horizontal and you're laying in bed and you're sleeping, the income still comes in. That's horizontal income. Vertical income, you got to be up, you got to be doing something, right? So I'm all about horizontal income. So for me, one-on-one coaching is vertical income, right? I have to talk on the phone and coach someone. So I'm phasing out of that. I also do group coaching. I have little over 200 group coaching members. And so that's still vertical. I still have to do 2 calls a month, but instead of being paid by 1 person, I'm paid by 200 people, right? Mm-hmm. So you're able to scale it. And even though the amount of time for the calls doesn't take any longer than I would do a one-on-one call, I'm able to create a much larger income stream from the time invested in that program. And then I have my book, The Miracle Morning, and The Miracle Morning has become one of the main, it's the number one focus in my life, because nothing I've ever shared with the world has changed people's lives as profoundly. So, but the Miracle Morning has 3 income streams. It has, right, the audiobook sales, the paperback sales, and the Kindle sales, not to mention back of the room sales, bulk order sales, on and on. And then a new book came out, The Miracle Morning for Real Estate Agents. So I'm franchising. We've got The Miracle Morning for salespeople being written, Miracle Morning for teenagers. So I'm building an entire franchise around the Miracle Morning concept. I'm a keynote speaker, so I speak at events all over the country. What else? I put on my first live event, which Nick was a huge part of, bestyeareverblueprint.com. First live event, we launched a mastermind called the Quantum Leap Mastermind Program at that event. So I've got, I earn income from all these different sources. And I'm trying to move everything so that all of my income, or at least the majority of it, doesn't depend on me being there to earn it, right? But that it is something where, whether I'm there, like book sales, for example, while I'm sleeping, right, Miracle Morning books are selling all over the world. And then I wake up and I go, oh, cool, I made $500 while I was sleeping. That's awesome, right? Yeah. So that's really my business model. And then next is monetizing the podcast, Nick. So that's on you, man. That's one of my goals, is we got to figure out how to monetize the podcast, because we've got 70,000 people listening every month. We need to figure out how to monetize that.
Oh yeah, definitely. We're on that direction for sure. But I love just in that little bit that you said there. There's so many different directions we could take this, but I'm really happy that you did mention that multiple streams of income, because
Yeah.
in business nowadays, I think that's what you need to have. I mean, obviously you have to start with one, but you want to diversify it as quickly as possible, because, if for some reason Amazon shut down and stopped selling books, your Miracle Morning book sales would tank. Yeah, knock on wood, it never happened.
Knock on wood, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you'd still be bringing income in from several other places. You'd still be speaking. You would still, it would hurt your business, but it wouldn't kill it. It would still allow you to grow. You'd still find new ways. It allows you to adapt and change to the environment. So I guess
absolutely.
Let's maybe dive into the book a little bit. Or actually, let's go with this. How is it right now that you actually add value to your audience? What are some ways that you kind of approach? What is your approach to that?
Yeah, good question. So I recently gave a talk at an event that I was at called Beyond the Bestseller, How to Write a Book That Creates a Movement. And one of the things I talked about is that you've got to start building your tribe, building your audience right away. And the way that I did that is I created an opt-in page at miraclemorning.com. So if anyone wants to go see how I do this, you go to miraclemorning.com, and people put in their name and email address in order to get the first few chapters of the book for free. They get a free audio training for free and a free video training, all of that at miraclemorning.com. That's a way where it's automatically adding value to them, right, every time they opt in. In the book, there's also a site where people can go get a bunch of bonuses. So it's a way that they opt in, they automatically, but it's all automated, right? So I don't have to be there to do it. It sends them value. Now, here was the biggest problem, Nick, and I know you will figure out where I'm going with this, but I wasn't adding value consistently to my audience. I was the worst. Like I have, at the time that you and I met, I think I had probably 10,000 people on my email community, right, on my email list. And I would email them like once every few months. And it was usually the worst approach, because it was like when I needed something, like, hey guys, I have my book coming out, right? It's like, hey, nice, Hal, I haven't heard from you in like 3 months. And of course, when I hear from you, it's because you're selling me something cool. So it was horrible. And when you reached out to me, we talked about this. You said, well, hey, what if we did a podcast where all you have to do is show up once a week and record for 30 minutes, just talk on a phone or on the microphone or whatever for 30 minutes, and I'll take care of the rest. And all of your email list will get an email every week with value from you. You're not selling them anything. You're just teaching it, and they're getting to hear your voice, right? They're getting value directly from you. So now they're gonna like you better. They're gonna trust you more, right? They're gonna have a relationship with you because you're adding value, and they're getting to hear your voice and connect with you. And that's what got me excited about it. And I thought, wow, all I have to do is show up for half an hour a week, and my audience will get the value that I've been kicking myself for not delivering. Because writing, I'm not, yes, I'm a writer, I'm an author, but it's more challenging for me. Talking's easier than writing, right? I'll spend hours on a paragraph, or like a small blog. And then I won't like it, and I'll just throw the whole thing away. So the audio has been huge, and the podcast has been huge. But here's the other thing I want to share on this, Nick, is that when we launched the podcast, the first month we had 5,000 downloads. And that basically means because of the 10,000 people in my email community, 5,000 of them were like, yeah, I'll check out the podcast, right? Mm-hmm. Month 2, we had 7,000 check out the podcast. So that basically meant that, well, a few more people decided to pick it up. But here's where it went crazy. Month 3, we had 27,000 downloads to the podcast. Now, you might wonder, if you're listening, well, how could you, if your email community was only 10,000, how could you have 27,000 downloads? Did your email community explode overnight? The answer is no. Nick and your Ninja Strategies, his Ninja Strategies, right, got it noticed on iTunes in the new and noteworthy section. So there's something on iTunes called new and noteworthy where the podcast get featured, right? If you understand how iTunes kind of works their algorithms, which Nick understands that. And so it wasn't that my community grew. Well, it did after the fact, but it was because iTunes put up my podcast in their new and noteworthy and said, hey, check this out. And now the millions of people on iTunes that were in the podcast saw my podcast and an extra 20,000 of them or whatever it was decided to listen to it. So it really spread organically through iTunes, and that was leveraging their audience to grow mine. So that's a really powerful aspect of podcasting as well.
Oh, absolutely. And obviously, I couldn't agree more. Hey, the podcast is called Power of Podcasting. But I do want to actually dive into something else. So, we're not just focusing on podcasting for this episode, because you do something that I think is very valuable to your audience. You've built a big community through your Facebook groups. So if you would, Hal, just kind of maybe talk a little bit about your Facebook group, or one of them, or the multiple I know you have, and why you chose to build your community that way, and the type of community you have kind of evolving there.
Yeah. Thank you. It's so the Miracle Morning community on Facebook. I'd invite anybody to check it out. Again, and if you go to Facebook and search the Miracle Morning community, make sure you put the word community in, because there's a Miracle Morning, fan page or whatever else. Some other people created like Miracle Morning random stuff. They've got their own Miracle Morning groups. So, but the Miracle Morning community is the official one. In fact, the URL, if you want to put in the show notes, is mytmm, as in the Miracle Morning, mytmmcommunity.com. But we are over 12,000 members now, and it started with me and like the 5 of my friends or 30 of my friends or whatever that I added, right? And it's grown organically. It's become the most engaged online community that I've ever seen. And here's the thing. So the reason I did this, it was actually an 11th hour kind of thing where my book was written. I sent it to a handful of my friends to get their feedback. And one of my buddies, John Vroman, said, Hal, do you have some sort of online community where people can tap into so they can get support? They're going to be doing their Miracle Morning, and maybe they don't know anyone else doing the Miracle Morning, and they're up early in the morning, and they feel lonely, isolated, nobody to talk to. So why not create an online community? And so here's an important point: is I was going to create it. I was going to use some sort of like third-party site and create it so people would go there, they would log in, like Kajabi or some sort of site like that, or WordPress or whatever. And I told John that, and he said, Hal, if I were you, he goes, I would use Facebook. He said, a couple reasons. Number one, people already have enough stuff to log into every day, right? Don't give them another thing they have to log into. It's just extra work. He said, number two, people are already going to be on Facebook anyway. So A, they're going to see your community's posts, right, in their newsfeed, or notifications are going to pop up when a new post goes in, or it's a lot easier for them to check out your stuff without having to get off Facebook and log into a different site. So I am so glad that I took his advice and I used the Facebook group, because it's also, it's just the structure of it. It's perfect, right? I mean, it's well, I won't say nothing's perfect, but the structure of how you can comment on each other's posts, you can share the posts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's another component that's really big. So yeah, it's become, I mean, you've seen this, Nick, where someone will go in there and say, hey, I'm new here. I'm struggling in this area of my life or this area of the Miracle Morning. Anybody have any advice? And by the end of the day, they'll have 50, 60, 70 comments from people they've never met before. And here's the neat thing about a community is it is not dependent on me anymore. It's a self-sustaining community. If I died today, the Miracle Morning community, knock on wood again. Yeah. We don't want Amazon to go out of business, and I don't want to die. Again. Yeah, you only live twice. So but the point is it's self-sustaining. So the point of a community is you're creating something that you want to create it around a concept, whatever your concept is, where people can interact, engage, and support each other. And now keep in mind, when you start it, more than likely you're going to need to be engaged, right? You're going to have to facilitate it until it picks up steam. And probably for the first, maybe even, year, 6 months or a year, I was very heavily involved in posting. And what you want to post is a lot of questions, right? Like, hey guys, what's your opinion on this? Or what do you think about this? Or what's your favorite quote? Or what's your favorite book? Or right? So you want to ask questions that get people engaged. People love sharing their opinion. Yes. They love sharing their opinion, right? So ask questions that get people engaged. And then the other thing that I encourage you to do is you want to find your leaders as early as possible in your community. They will emerge on their own, but I encourage you, if you can even if you have an employee, like if you run a company or business and you have an employee, that you can hire to do that for you, right? You can have them go engage for you. Or if you could build a little team of, maybe all, if you have a bunch of employees, they all have to check in once a day, right? Something like that. But if you can get other people to facilitate kind of that motion, and then it's a numbers game as it grows, right? Once you go from 10 to 100 to 1,000 people in your community, the engagement will naturally take off because you're going to attract the leaders and attract the people that want to contribute and want to be involved. And then, now it's like I said, it's a self-sustaining community that doesn't need me to make it go.
Oh yeah, and it truly is an awesome community. So I highly encourage everyone to go check it out. If nothing else, to at least model that in your own business.
Model
as well.
it, yeah.
So Hal, we only have a couple minutes left, and I just want to quickly ask, what would you do now if you were going to get started in business, start all over right now? You still had the Miracle Morning concept and idea, but what would be maybe your first few steps?
So, one of the things, I would definitely encourage people. It depends on the business. It depends on the business.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you want to make sure your expenses are covered, right? So, client acquisition, I think, is number one. So if you're not a master at marketing, really focus on learning and studying marketing. It's one thing that I learned when I became a life coach. I would call myself now more of a strategy coach, success coach. But I started out as what was called a life coach. It was like 10 years ago. And I wanted to help people. And what I realized is you can be the best life coach in the world. But if you don't understand sales and marketing, right, you're not going to have any clients. Yeah. Nobody's going to know about you. So you've really got to focus on the marketing and the client acquisition. That's the number one thing, I think, to start. That's how a business thrives. And often you become good at what you do through the doing of it, right? Mm-hmm. I started out as a coach with no training. And I became a good coach kind of on the job, right? On the fly learning as I went. So that's the one thing is client acquisition, number one. So learning marketing, reading, you should always be reading books on marketing and mastering that. A great book is Influence by Robert Cialdini.
Excellent book.
That's a great place to start. Yeah. Or another one by Michael Port is Book Yourself Solid. Another really good book.
Yeah. And he has his illustrated version out right now, and that's phenomenal.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen. I've seen it available, but I haven't seen it yet. That's cool. Oh, you have it?
Right on the side of the shelf.
Nice. Now that's not for kids. It's just what's the point of the illustrated version?
He has a lot of. So he kind of draws everything out so you can understand it a little bit better. But then he also has lots of different exercises in there, little worksheets for you to fill out, things like that. It's pretty cool.
All right, I gotta buy that. All right, so and then here's what I would encourage people to do. You mentioned for me, if I had the Miracle Morning concept, but I didn't have anything else, I think everybody should write a book. I really do. I feel like everyone has a book in them, and I feel like it's our duty to share our story and our struggle or our strategies with people to help them overcome, create what they want or overcome what's holding them back. And so I think everybody has a book in them. And here's the deal: a book is a phenomenal marketing piece for a lot of reasons. Number one is just having a book separates you from your competition for the most part. Unless you're an author, then all of your competition has books, right? But if you're a business person, and instead of sending someone a brochure, which a brochure is a great way of saying, here, you throw this away, right? When you send someone a brochure. But a book, right? People don't throw books away. The book sits on the shelf. The book gets read. And now if you send a book, that's your best marketing piece, much better than a brochure. And the positioning of that is, wow, you're an expert in your field. You wrote the book on what you teach. And I'm working with almost all of my clients now on writing a book in whatever their field is. One of my clients is a top SEO guy and web designer, right? So we're working on a book that he's going to write on SEO. So now he'll be the leading authority on that topic. So I think everyone should write a book. And then last but not least, focus on building your tribe, building your community, and, for lack of a better way of putting it, your email list, right? Building your email list and adding value consistently every week. You got to stay in touch, top of mind awareness, stay in touch, add value. Some people go, well, but I don't want to email, my customers. I don't want to bother them. And I would say this: if every time your customers got an email from you, $100 was deposited in their bank account, how many times would be too many times to email them? No, they'd want emails all the time. Why? Because they're getting value every time you email them. So You don't have to give them $100 for every email you send, but if every email adds value, then checking in once a week, it's fine. And here's what I found is people unsubscribe off your list. That's fine. Yeah. You don't want those people. You want the people that want to hear from you. If they're annoyed by getting value from you, they're probably not going to be your repeat customers anyway. So my email list has grown from 10,000 to 45,000. And I've had, I don't know how many thousands and thousands and thousands of people opt out of my email list. Mm-hmm. So the 45,000 email subscribers that I have now, I probably had 55,000 subscribe and 10,000 have said, I want off. Don't ever email me again. That's great. That used to freak me out. People used to email and be like, I want off your email list. And I would email them like, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Did I offend you? Please, right? Please stay, right? It was like pathetic. This was a long time ago, but now I'm like, dude, I want people to opt out because I only want to communicate with the people that really connect and resonate with my message and with my value and my style, and that becomes your tribe. That becomes your core group of people that are gonna buy from you and that are gonna refer you to other people.
Awesome, Hal. It's been so amazing having you here for this interview. Again, excellent job. I'm really glad that you were our first interview here on the podcast. Thanks again for adding so much value. You've blessed my life, and you're definitely helping so many people change their lives. I just love it. So Hal, if our listeners want to find you, where's the best place to go?
You can go to my website, Hal Elrod, HALELROD.com. If you want to pick up a copy of The Miracle Morning, which you got to get the book, it's on Amazon.com, The Miracle Morning. By the way, it's not The Morning Miracle. There's a book called The Morning Miracle about the Washington Post, like the fall of the newspaper industry. And I was at an event the other day, and this guy goes, yeah, this woman recommended that I read The Miracle Morning. And I thought it was The Morning Miracle, so I bought it. He goes, and I'm reading it for like an hour, and it's all about the fall of the newspaper industry. And I'm like, I called her, I'm like, why are you having me read this book? So it's not The Morning Miracle. It is The Miracle Morning. Miracle comes before morning. So I just wanted to clear that up so nobody else makes that same mistake.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Hal. And again, I appreciate you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too, Nick. Thanks, buddy. Take care.
I just love this episode, and we actually got to talk about things that Hal and I normally don't have a conversation about on a regular basis, so that was a lot of fun for me as well. And hopefully you got a lot of great takeaways from this episode. Now, hopefully you can see that building that community aspect around your business will just help it accelerate it to that next level. It's just going to help you grow even more than ever before. So start thinking about ways you can actually build community into your business. Now, I created a little resource guide from this episode, so simply text the word Power of Podcasting, one word, Power of Podcasting, to 33444, and I'll send you over this resource guide that kind of walks you through some of the highlights of this episode and some action items as well. And if you haven't done so yet, please go subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and leave a rating and a review. This helps spread the word about the podcast, and it helps more people decide if the podcast is right for them. And if you just want to get all the show notes and all the links, simply go to powerofpodcasting.tv and you'll find everything linked up right there. In the next episode, I am actually going to walk you through an exercise that will help you overcome the number one hurdle people have when starting a podcast. But now it's time for you to actually go out there to take action and maximize both your impact and your income.